everybody, and welcome. Thank you for joining us to hear how the overview of our Community Conversations series went. We were able to host a series of 7 conversations with the community from a grant that we won from the American Library Association. And through that grant, we hosted 4 adult conversations, 2 that were focused on teens, and 1 for children and family. And so today we just are going to go through and ask each other some questions and talk a little bit about how that went.
All right, so Bobby, what do you think the benefit of hosting more than one conversation was?
I think that the topics we touched had so much to unpack, and they still do, that it gave us a chance to build trust with each other as we shared things about our lives, and it gave us a chance to look at things from different angles as we went along. So I think that one conversation just wouldn't have been enough for what we were trying to do. Peter, the children's experience included a couple of months with questions and activities that led up to that final night of conversation. Do you want to tell us a bit about the children's program?
Sure. So we chose a book called Save Me a Seat, and we partnered with a nonprofit called Read to Them, which does community reads, one book, one school programs. And so we used the questions that they had prepared for teaching that book, and to help the parents do this at home, we posted some of those questions on Facebook and on our website so that they would have some guidance each week. So each week they had a handful of questions, and we posted some links to things about the food that was discussed, clothing, Bollywood stars that were discussed, to kind of give the family some background. And so that gave them some support even if they weren't able to come to the final conversation.
I like that too, because there's so much to talk about sometimes, that having a little experience about it as you build up, you kind of know what stood out for you when you get
and we knew we were still struggling with COVID situations, so we didn't have everybody comfortable coming into the library for a program like that.
Right, so they
that
could
way
still
they felt part of it.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
So Erin, you co-hosted most of the events. Was there anything that surprised you about the feedback we got?
A lot of the feedback was very positive. Which was great. I think a part of it that surprised me, us choosing a book, it wasn't us endorsing said book. So I know that some people thought, oh, we're using this book, this is exactly what we believe, this is what we're following. More of it just being a conversation to open up, to kind of get the dialogue moving. So that kind of surprised me. All right, Bobby, if you could take away one thing from these conversations, what would it be?
I have more than one thing, but
That would be a lot.
yeah, we could talk all day. One big thing for me was how successful explorative conversations can be. So a lot of the time when you go to a meeting or you go to a book club, like, you have this list of set things that you're sure that you're going to hit. But by doing these as explorative, we got to learn from each other. And so it was really neat to just have that chance to say, okay, we have an outline, but that we're learning from each other here. We're not trying to win anybody over to any certain viewpoint, but just to have a chance to share our own experiences and then to learn from those with each other.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool to hear different perspectives and different experiences that went along with those certain questions and kind of how we divulged off it. So
yeah, even for that size of group, we had a diversity of ages and some different ethnic backgrounds, and people that were in the community all their lives, and people that had just moved and were exploring what was going on in Three Rivers.
Yeah. Peter, what about you? Is there any one thing that stood out for you?
You know, I have images of how kind of intense people were listening. I mean, it wasn't just people came with things they wanted to say and points that they wanted to make. Everybody was doing a really good job of listening to each other. And so the conversation went on some interesting tangents in that way because everybody was willing to follow. So, same question, Erin?
Yeah, I took away a thing that that stood out is just how everyone was cordial and inclusive with each other. Even if they may not have agreed with what they were saying, they were open to hear it and listening. And usually, you think you know something about someone and they tell that life experience and you think, oh my gosh, I didn't even know. So I felt like the group that we had was kind of, we kind of got stronger because it was kind of the same through some of the conversations. So that really kind of stood out to me, that people were willing to listen and kind of go off of that to help them explain their life experiences as well. So, yeah. Bobby, tell us more about some of the feedback that you received.
I think my favorite thing about the feedback that we got was always this reoccurring theme of we want more of this. And and the group grew throughout the series. Like, we had our main ones who were there almost every single time. And then as it like the momentum happened, we had different people come in from different areas of the community too, which was really great. But the reoccurring theme was that we needed a place to have conversations like these where it's just, let's just talk about it and learn from each other. And so for me, that was really great to see that this was something that did address something we thought was a need, and that we can build on that in the future. Peter, hosting these conversations definitely came with a learning curve. Was there anything that you found that made the conversations easier?
Well, we knew going into it we wanted to have a set of ground rules that we went over. And so one of the things I think you set up was a PowerPoint that we would have in the room with those rules for the participants to see. One of the things that we did differently with the kids, because we had 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds in the conversation, is we pulled out one of the scenes from Save Me a Seat, and we did it with the kids as a reader's theater. So we had 2 or 3 kids participating and a couple of adults. And even the kids that might not have been able to pull out concrete examples from the book were able to react to that scene and what was happening. And some of the kids really got into their role.
Oh, I love that.
They were playing the role of the bully, and that really wasn't their persona, but
All right.
they got into it.
They embraced it.
They embraced it, exactly. Erin, so some of the conversations used a book as a jumping off point, some of them did not. Was there a difference in the flow of the conversation either way?
I felt that they kind of all had their own flow. When we had questions with set books, we would answer one question, and just how it evolved, it almost was like, oh, we answered the second question. Or whether it wasn't based off a book, I felt that it still ebbed and flowed and did its own thing. So we would just kind of, one person would talk about something, and it just kind of snowballed from there, and just opened up a kind of a whole new conversation. So I don't think it was different in the sense that one was better than the other. I think they all kind of worked in their own way, and all of them went really well. So, yeah.
Even when we had Zoom issues.
There's always tech issues, but
I like in person better.
Yes.
much easier. Yes, exactly. All right. Does anyone have any final notes about?
I think for me, I would say that the staff got a really good base for guiding these explorative conversations through the training that we got from the grant. And so I think it was really neat to see that format that they gave us really help us as we, kind of went along. And so when you're talking things that can be sensitive conversations, there's a hesitancy to step on toes, and that really helped us to have some freedom to just trust the people in the room and know that we came with the intention of learning and not convincing or any of those kind of things. And to me, I think that I actually end up getting more out of it than I ever would have if it had been somebody like trying to teach me in a way. It was more sharing instead of teaching. And so I think that it really laid a good ground for us to build on with future things that we do too.
Yeah, I think the training gave us the confidence to accept that initial hesitancy,
Yes.
that first question, and we were patient enough to wait it out and let somebody respond. I think if we jumped in with something that first day, it could have been deadly.
That first question's always
Oh, yeah.
like it's the one.
What's that? Yeah.
And the more people that had come, now they're at their third conversation together, there was like less hesitancy on the first question every time because that trust was being built.
Yeah.
And so that part was really cool to see within the group and, you know, to hear the conversations where they were like inviting each other to do things after and they had met here in this conversation. And so that part was something I didn't expect to see happen. That was really cool.
Yeah, I think we've definitely started something we could continue, and it sounded like from the feedback there was a real interest in doing that.
Yeah, just have a place to kind of have a conversation,
Mhm.
not convincing someone, not trying to push your beliefs on anyone. It was just a place to kind of tell about your life experiences and hear others. So
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching our overview of that, and stay tuned. We do plan on doing some more conversations in some form, probably starting in the spring. So thanks everybody.
thanks.